The day he walked into Pinnacle Tower, no one noticed. And why would they? He wasn't wearing a suit. He wasn't holding a laptop. He didn't have a badge that opened the shimmering glass doors automatically. No, he wore a faded blue jumpsuit. His shoes squeaked with wear. And in his hand was a mop. The name stitched on his chest simply read, Rafiq. To the high-ranking executives, he was just another cleaning guy. A ghost. A background blur. The man who emptied their bins, polished their floors, and vanished before they logged in their first Zoom call of the day. But if they had looked closer, if they had paused even for a second, they might have noticed the wisdom behind those tired brown eyes. Or the way he observed everything, not with complaint, but curiosity. Or how, as he pushed that mop through the marble-floored lobby, he was silently solving problems they hadn't even noticed yet. But no one looked. Not then. Not yet. Pinnacle Innovations was a company known for its ruthless climb to the top. The CEO, Camille Faraz, was young, sharp, and feared. Meetings began with fear, ended with tension, and were followed by whispers in bathrooms about who would be fired next. The culture was toxic, competitive, and cold. And into that world walked a man who barely spoke a word, but who would soon bring it all to its knees. Rafiq wasn't always a janitor. But no one asked. He was assigned the night shifts at first, wiping the stains off the glass walls, rearranging chairs after late-night meetings, and collecting the coffee cups no one cared to throw away. He moved silently, unnoticed. But he listened. He listened to the loud voices that screamed across the conference rooms. He noticed which employees cried alone in the stairwells. He watched as ideas were stolen, credit was misassigned, and loyalty was used like a rag, only to be discarded when dry. And still, he mopped. He mopped with grace, with pride, like every sweep of his hand meant something. It was Sarah, the receptionist, who first noticed him. She was new, like him. Younger, nervous, trying to survive in a world that chewed up anyone who showed weakness. One evening, as she fumbled with the coffee machine, Rafiq walked over and quietly reset the switch. The machine blinked back to life. She smiled, embarrassed. "Thank you. I would have broken it." Rafiq gave a soft smile. "Machines don't break easy. People do." And he walked away. She remembered those words long after he disappeared down the corridor. Weeks passed. The company prepared for a major presentation, a pitch that could secure $1 billion investment. Everyone was tense. The CEO's fury echoed through the halls as managers scrambled to finalize slides and silence their fears. One evening, as Rafiq polished the floor outside the boardroom, he noticed a laptop left open. He glanced. Just once. Just long enough to read the file name, Q4_pitch_final_V7. He hesitated, then walked away. But the next night, he found the same laptop, same desk, same file. Only this time, the numbers on the slide were wrong. So wrong, in fact, that anyone with basic sense would have seen the flaw. But in their rush, their panic, and their arrogance, no one had. Except the janitor. Rafiq stared, then slowly pulled out his old phone. Not to steal, not to send, just to note the error. The next morning, the assistant manager, Zoya, arrived early. She found a sticky note on her desk. No name. No signature. Nothing else. She frowned. She looked around. No one saw her. She checked the file. Her heart sank. The numbers were, indeed, wrong. Badly. A mistake that could have cost them everything. She fixed it quietly. Didn't tell anyone. But from that day, she began to notice the janitor. One by one, small things began to change. A broken AC unit that had baffled the technicians for a week suddenly worked after Rafiq had passed through the server room. A tense meeting that almost broke down due to a jammed presentation system magically worked after Rafiq accidentally unplugged and replugged the HDMI cord. People whispered, "Who was this guy?" But no one really asked. Not yet. Until one Friday afternoon. It was raining hard. The city was nearly flooded. Most of the staff had gone home. But one intern, Bilal, was still inside, curled in a corner of the cafeteria, crying. Rafiq saw him, walked over, said nothing at first. Then he sat beside him, slowly, quietly. "I messed up," Bilal muttered. "I uploaded the wrong file to the investor portal. They're going to fire me." It's over. Rafiq was silent for a long time. Then he said something that Bilal never forgot. He stood up. Come, he said. Together, they went to the IT desk. Rafiq asked the security guard for access to the servers. He spoke with such quiet authority that even the stubborn old guard obeyed. Within an hour, they located the log file, restored the backup, and replaced the upload, just in time before the investor opened the link. No one knew what happened. No one but Bilal. From that day, Bilal never looked at the janitor the same way again. It was Sarah who first called him, Ustad, master. You're like a ghost genius, she laughed. You know everything, fix everything, see everything, and no one even knows your name. Rafiq smiled. Names don't matter. Actions do. But the whispers had begun. Who is this guy? Where did he work before this? Why is he a janitor? No one had answers. Until the company faced its biggest crisis yet. The pitch was ready. The investors were here. Suits, ties, high expectations. The presentation was sleek. The numbers were perfect. Until the power cut. The entire 34th floor went dark. Chaos. People screamed, rushed, stumbled. Backups failed. The smart systems glitched. The IT team panicked. The investors stood in silence, unimpressed. The CEO lost it. Fix this now. And then, in the silence, a voice said, I can. Everyone turned. It was Rafiq, holding a small toolkit, and calm in a storm of screaming executives. What? Barked the CEO. You're the janitor. Get out of the way. But Rafiq had already opened the panel. In 5 minutes, using only a portable converter, some bypass wires, and his old-school methods, the power flickered back on. Lights returned. The screen blinked alive. The investors applauded. The CEO froze. For the first time, he saw the man. Who are you? Rafiq simply smiled. Just the janitor. But the truth was about to come out. Because what no one knew, was that Rafiq wasn't just a janitor. Years ago, he was one of the lead engineers at a Fortune 500 tech firm in Dubai. He'd patented multiple power system designs. But when a jealous partner framed him for data theft, he lost everything, his job, his visa, and his name. He returned to Pakistan in shame. Took the first job he could get. As a janitor. But his mind never stopped. His heart never gave up. And now, the world was about to see who he truly was. For a moment, the room was frozen. The lights had just come back, the investors were nodding, and in the corner, the janitor, with a mop in one hand and wires in the other, had just pulled off what the entire IT department failed to do in 30 minutes of chaos. But what really stopped everyone cold wasn't just that he fixed the issue. It was how he did it. With calm, with confidence, like he'd done it 100 times before. Like he belonged not outside the room, but at the head of the table. The CEO, Camille Faraz, narrowed his eyes. You, Rafiq, right. Rafiq simply nodded. You work in maintenance. Again, just a nod. Where did you learn to do that? There was a beat of silence before Rafiq answered, softly but clearly, I designed a similar power override system for an energy firm in Dubai. Back in 2013, a hush fell across the boardroom. Even the investors looked at each other. One of them, a graying British Indian man named Mr. Alvi, sat forward. Wait, you said designed. What company? Rafiq's voice didn't tremble. Energulf. Another silence, but this one was heavier. Mr. Alvi straightened up. Energulf used a patented load balancing algorithm in 2013. I remember. Revolutionary at the time. That wasn't your system, was it? Rafiq didn't say yes. But he didn't have to. His eyes said it all. Within days, rumors spread like wildfire. The janitor, the man everyone ignored, was actually a former lead engineer at one of the top energy firms in the Middle East. Linked to patents. Formerly high-ranking, respected, brilliant, but buried. The HR department scrambled. Suddenly, there were closed-door meetings. Internal reviews. Investigations. Sarah, the receptionist, found herself Googling for hours, and found the name, Rafiq Uzair, linked to an old 2013 patent under Energulf's archives. But after that, a gap, a sudden resignation, no news, no interviews, like the man had vanished. Until now, Camille, the CEO, wasn't pleased. Not because Rafiq had talent, but but because his presence now threatened the carefully controlled image of leadership. And nothing threatened a prideful man more than a humble one who had power. At first, they offered Rafik a raise, double his janitor salary. Then, a promotion to facility operations consultant. He declined. Then they offered an office. He declined again. "I'm not here for your positions," he told Camille plainly. "I'm here to build something real." Camille laughed it off, but behind closed doors, he ordered surveillance. Had Rafik been stealing data? Planting things? Was he here for revenge? But Rafik didn't care for revenge. He cared for redemption. And so he began to do something no one expected. He started teaching. Quietly. Silently. From the basement to the top floor, employees started approaching him with questions. The junior coders. The confused interns. The burnt-out analysts. He never told them what to do. He asked questions, guided, offered better ways of thinking. One by one, frustrated staff started improving. His words lingered in their minds. Are you solving the problem, or solving the symptom? Don't let panic blind your process. Even a system has a soul. Understand why it breaks, not just how. Soon, even Zoya, the assistant manager, was secretly seeking his advice. He didn't want praise. He didn't ask for favors. And that made people respect him more. But Camille saw it as a threat. He called an emergency meeting with the board. This janitor, he's overstepping, he growled. We hired him to clean floors, not mentor staff. One of the board members shrugged. But staff performance is up. Morale too. Camille slammed the table. It's not his place. This is my company. And then came the mistake that changed everything. Camille, determined to discredit Rafik, hired an investigator to dig into his past. They uncovered the scandal from Dubai, the false charges. But they didn't realize those charges had quietly been dropped. No one bothered to check why. In his arrogance, Camille leaked the scandal to an online tech blog, hoping it would scare Rafik into quitting. It backfired. Because the blog didn't stop at the headline. A young journalist named Alia dug deeper. She found records that proved Rafik had been cleared. She even uncovered an internal Gulf memo showing that another executive, the real thief, had been fired months after Rafik left. She published the full story. Title: It went viral. Within 48 hours, Rafik's name was trending on Twitter. LinkedIn lit up with shares and praise. Engineers across the world remembered his name. Tech forums called him the quiet legend. Investors, journalists, and companies began reaching out to Pinnacle Innovations, not for Camille, but for Rafik. And then came the final blow. At the next investor meeting, the board was shocked to learn that one of the incoming investors, Mr. Alvi, had one condition for his funding: Rafik had to lead the new project. Not Camille. Not the existing CTO. Camille resisted. Fought. Even tried to fire Rafik. But it was too late. The board overruled him. The investors backed Rafik. And in one breathtaking board vote, 6-3, Camille was removed as CEO. For the first time in company history, a janitor, the man once laughed at, ignored, underestimated, was offered the highest technical position, but what he did next shocked everyone. He declined. I didn't come here for power, he said. I came here to restore purpose. Instead, he proposed something else. A division within the company dedicated to internal growth, mentoring, idea development, and innovation from the bottom up. He called it Project Elevate. He insisted every employee, regardless of position, have a chance to contribute to innovation, from interns to janitors to executives. He created weekly open labs. People pitched ideas, collaborated across departments. Suddenly, the culture shifted. Toxicity faded. Teams trusted again. Promotions were no longer based on politics, but contribution. Under Rafik's guidance, 3 new products were launched, one of which became the fastest growing tool in the company's history. And the best part, Rafik still showed up every morning, in his blue jumpsuit. Still carried the mop. When asked why, he smiled. This mop reminds me, no matter how high you rise, your hands should never forget how to serve. They called it the Golden Quarter. In just 3 months, Pinnacle Innovations tripled its productivity, launched 2 major products, and attracted global headlines, all under the quiet watch of a man still wearing a janitor's uniform. But while the board smiled and shareholders celebrated, Rafik remained unchanged. Every morning, he still walked the halls at sunrise. He greeted the sleepy security guards, refilled the empty tea trays in the meeting rooms, and left handwritten notes of encouragement at random desks. People didn't just respect him. They loved him, not because he was perfect, but because he saw them, all of them, not as cogs in a machine, but as people. When an employee's child fell ill, Rafik showed up at the hospital unannounced with the full cost of treatment, paid anonymously. When a night guard's home was damaged in a storm, Rafik organized a fundraiser, without anyone knowing he'd matched every rupee. His legacy wasn't in code or numbers. It was in hearts. But even as the company soared, trouble brewed beyond the walls. Camille Faraz, the former CEO, hadn't disappeared. Stripped of his title, humiliated by the rise of a janitor, he moved quietly. He reached out to rival firms, painted Rafik as a manipulator, and whispered into the ears of hungry executives, "He'll bring you down next. He's too powerful, too good to be true." And slowly, doubt crept in. Some competitors began to question Pinnacle's rise. Was it real, sustainable, or just a media fairy tale? One company, Titan Core Solutions, decided to test that theory. They launched a product nearly identical to Pinnacle's newest software, only faster and flashier. They claimed Pinnacle had stolen ideas. Camille fed the rumors. Then, a strategic leak. An anonymous tip accused Rafik of repurposing an old algorithm he hadn't patented in Dubai. Within hours, online articles surfaced, "Janitor genius or patent pirate." It spread like wildfire. TV panels debated, experts questioned, investors flinched. Inside Pinnacle, silence reigned. The board was terrified, stocks dipped. Even the employees who once trusted Rafik began to whisper. And Rafik, he said nothing. He kept showing up, kept walking the halls. Until one afternoon, he called a company-wide town hall. And what he said changed everything. He didn't deny the accusations. He didn't defend himself either. He walked to the center of the stage, pulled out his old mop, and said, "This is the tool they gave me when I lost everything. Not a laptop, not a title, a mop. And with this, I learned something most men in power never do: how to serve. How to listen. How to rebuild from the floor up. So if they want to take my name, let them. If they want to take my credit, let them. But what they can never take, is the lives we've lifted. The families we've fed, the dignity we've restored, starting from this mop." There was silence, then applause, then tears. That single moment went viral, again. But this time, not as a scandal, but as a statement. The next morning, hundreds of employees, from engineers to receptionists, arrived at work holding mops. Homemade signs read "The board stood frozen." And then, moved by the people's voice, they did something unthinkable. They announced a new leadership model, one where Rafik would not just lead innovation, but culture. He was named the first position of its kind in the region. His job: build humans, not just systems. But Rafik had something even bigger in mind. He began traveling to schools, universities, and vocational centers, telling his story not as a tech tale, but a human one. He launched a scholarship called Funding Education for anyone who had once worked in manual labor. Because sometimes the world hides its diamonds in the dust, he said. And all they need, is someone to pick them up. He visited prisons, trained ex-convicts in coding. He partnered with janitorial unions. Created a mentorship network where blue-collar workers could learn tech, finance, and even leadership. His philosophy was simple. Media outlets crowned him a visionary. TED Talks begged for him. Forbes named him the humblest genius. But he declined interviews. The work is the story, he said. Let the work speak. And it did.